Hello there, and welcome back to War Thunder, to a naval shooting guide for ships. And not just the big cruisers, but also the same principles that I want to go through apply for destroyers and even patrol boats. Not all patrol boats, because certain patrol boats, they use a different setting or game mechanics, if you will, and they are really annoying. I am focusing here on the realistic battle game mode because I think this is the game mode that I'm most comfortable with, and that I think shooting is also easier than in arcade, in my opinion. Now, a lot of you people just probably bought yourself a premium cruiser and you just can't hit the enemy ship. And also for even certain seasoned warriors, I might have a tip here or there. So I want to go through the settings, I want to go through a little bit of theory, and then prove my point with some excellent gameplay. Now, the thing here is, the Admiral Hipper just is a very good weapon platform. It has not the highest DPM, but it can sustain it. It has very hard hitting guns with a very high muzzle velocity, which is excellent, especially for long range shooting. Also, the HE shell is quite powerful, so every single ammunition type has its purpose. The next thing is, this is now in patch 1.93, but I guess that tomorrow, or by the day that you're seeing this guide in patch 1.95, you see the very same mechanics. If not, then oops, but I haven't seen any sort of differences on the test server. So the furthest hits that I managed to do in the Admiral Hipper were 16 kilometers. The furthest kill was on an enemy Chapayev, which was trying to kite away. It was not the first salvo, but I continuously zeroed in with my salvos, and then one more or less lucky shot detonated his ammo rack at 13 kilometers. And I regularly hit and destroy enemy ships at 10 kilometers. And for guns like these, a range of 8 to 7 kilometers is nothing, and 5 kilometers, which is a reasonable distance for destroyers, is practically point blank range. And I think this is one of the great things about War Thunder, that you really feel the power of the guns, that you have much more relation to them. And I think this is what really brings a little bit of glory to this otherwise heavily neglected game mode when it comes to balance and awesomeness. So without further ado, let's go through first the settings, then a bit of theory, as I said, and then finally some gameplay. And the settings are here under controls. Let's go to ships. Again, it all applies to realistic battle mostly. And the first important thing is here, funnily enough, under movement, the ranging shot. And the ranging shot enables you to just fire every single barrel individually. This helps with, as I said, finding the range, finding the direction, especially if you're in a turn, but also if an enemy, let's say destroyer or very lightly armored cruiser is nearby, and you have very big guns with a considerable reload, and you need to really destroy this guy, and because of certain reasons you have loaded HE and you can't go through the belt to detonate the ammo rack, then you can fire at every single segment of an enemy destroyer and blacken it out with big guns. 6-inch guns and 7-inch guns, 8-inch guns, doesn't really matter. The HE is always strong enough to blacken a certain section of a destroyer, and so you don't pump the entire salvo into, let's say, the front of the ship, but it still survives, gets off the torpedoes, and then you have to take evasive actions or you die. So this is one of the most important features, and I think you really need to apply a button to it. Then obviously full salvo with the left mouse button. You also can change obviously the buttons to your preferred setting, of course, but it's very important that you need them. Then there is also the torpedoes. What do they have to do with main battery firepower? Well, there is the torpedo aiming, and it is set to Q. And if you press this, or as it is right now currently by default, you have this white line. And if the torpedoes are in range, then you get a little bit of aiming help, and the game tells you in which direction the enemy ship is heading and how fast. It takes a little bit of practice, but it's useful. Then directly to the shooting is also the mouse wheel, and you can also choose any sort of those settings, but the distance correction is very important that you set this to the mouse wheel, and you can choose whatever multiplier you want. I love here some less multipliers because sometimes you have to aim for like 10 meters accurately. And so this is already a lot of those settings done very importantly. Again, this is only about the shooting. So now let's come to the theory, right? So the theory is pretty easy. If you shoot, the shell is leaving the barrel in a straight line. However, the shell also takes the momentum of the ship itself with it. So that means if you are stationary and you have an enemy stationary target, you just point the guns at it, you set the range, you shoot, and you will straddle the target and some of the shells gonna hit, depending on the dispersion, depending on the range. The next thing is that if you are moving, let's say from right to left, and the enemy ship is going at the exact same speed in the exact same direction on a perfectly parallel course, the same can be done. You just point the guns at the enemy, aim midships, set the range, which is automatically set, and pull the trigger. And that's it. The really difficult thing comes in when you are on an anti-parallel course. Then you really have to lead the enemy ship. You have to take into account the enemy's heading and also bearing and speed, and the same goes for you. And this is then where the skill comes in mind. Now I will try to show you certain shots, but at the end of the day that requires practice. Again, make a ranging shot. Again, train it with a friend in a custom battle. Again, try to look at the replays, follow the shells, and then you learn a lot. And once you get it, once you know the principle of it, the shooting becomes much easier. Now, in most scenarios, and this is also a golden tip, the enemy and you will constantly close distance. While not directly heading for each other, you both go for the same objective, or you just try to go closer. Either way, this is the most common scenario. And therefore, depending on the range, the muzzle velocity, you try to scroll down. You try to lead with the distance. And so this is then where you always have to shoot shorter by, like, depending on the distance, even up to 1.5 kilometers. The furthest hit that I acquired was at 17 kilometers, and I shot at 16.5. Or the enemy was at 18 kilometers and I shot at 16.5 kilometers, and because I was moving toward the enemy, I hit the enemy when he was 17 kilometers away. So this is very, very important. And the same goes for destroyers. Obviously, destroyers have usually not the same retention of muzzle velocity on the shell at longer distances. There is more air drag compared to the momentum of the shell, so they'll slow down considerably more. And they also have to travel for the same beeline a longer distance because they just, they get shot higher in the air to even reach the distance, in contrast to cruiser guns. So I think that's enough theory crafting, that's enough settings. Let's have a look at certain really nice shots, shall we? So now let's have a look at our first target. It is a destroyer at 8 kilometers range. I shoot 300 meters short and I shoot a little bit in front of the bow. Those destroyers are usually a touch faster, and as you can see, we get in the hits. Now he turns actually a little bit out, and that would increase his speed normally in relation to me, but his propulsion was hit, the funnels and the propulsion, meaning that he slows down. So I didn't really correct my aim, and I still got some shrapnel hits in. Now I'm pretty confident in my aim. I aim at the back of the ship because there are also some sections that are not damaged. I already switched to the big boys, the cruisers. I don't even look at the kill. First strike right there. And that doesn't really always work, but I want to prioritize here the most dangerous enemies. Enemy Admiral Hippers, Kirovs, Chapayevs, and also the other German light cruisers with their high velocity guns. They are the main priority targets, as well as Brooklyns and Helenas, of course. So now the enemy Admiral Hipper hides behind the island, or the rock or mountain, and now I just have no target anymore. I hit him already, but no luck there, not significant damage. Now I see an enemy target, and I only see a part of the funnel and more or less the smoke, and also a mast. That gives me a rough idea of the bearing, and he seemed to be a bit slow according to the smoke. So I corrected the aim, and that was indeed a lucky shot. But luck is just a result of your consequent aim, of your consequent finding of the heading and bearing of the enemy ship, adjusting the range, and always shooting a few 100 meters short. That is, as I said, the most likely scenario, that you and the enemy are coming towards each other. And even if you are on a perfectly parallel course, shoot 100 meters short at a range of 5 kilometers, because you want to hit at the waterline, which causes more flooding, causes more fire, and just increases, when you shoot the armor-piercing shot, the chance of an ammo rack detonation or magazine detonation. So here I now play a little bit with my speed and my heading, and that screws over my own aim. And I see that the shells fall short, too short actually, and I also don't aim for the front guns, which I usually do. This sounds crazy, but aiming for the front guns has turned out to be the most effective way. And so, yeah, that's another one-shot wonder kill. Well, not quite the first shot, but again, it was a magazine detonation. Now, another funny thing is that you even can do this with patrol boats, and this is not something that you can always guarantee. For instance, in this case, I think to myself, okay, let's kill the Belfast, but the Belfast was blown up by Brooklyn. I have only the AP loaded, and then for the lols, I try to shoot here at this VS-10, and then, yeah, we actually hit the ammo rack with an armor-piercing shell on a very fast-moving patrol boat at 5 kilometers, or 4 kilometers. Now, that I hit actually the ammo rack was pretty lucky. But I'm pretty confident that with the second salvo I also would have killed him. The next battle is where I spawn right ahead, and there is an enemy Brooklyn or Helena at roughly 9 kilometers. So the first salvo will be HE, but I instantly switch to armor piercing. And the one thing which is the strength but also the weakness of those Brooklyn class, or the Brooklyn and the Helena in particular, is that they have so many turrets at the front. And so they are a bigger hitting area with even a bigger magazine. And there you can see the first salvo already straddled the enemy, and so I know where to aim, and I try here to find the range. And this is now the third salvo that I'm loading. He tries to smoke up, but hey, this is not World of Warships. I adjust here a little bit for the range, and I point the aim a little bit ahead, despite me going into the same direction, because this cruiser seems to be at the moment just a touch faster. And yeah, that was a little bit too ambitious. So now again, I think that I am at the very same speed as him as I observe the fall of shots. The salvo is in the air of the fourth salvo, if I'm not mistaken. Shells are coming down. Yeah, that was already pretty good. Okay, I was shooting a bit too far. I'm turning away, and I know that I'm turning away. It takes a while for the ship to overtake the momentum of the rudder and the direction change. But we get the hit in. That is first strike within the first 5 salvos. I'm not showing here cruelty versus small ships. You know, not the K2. And there is now an Atlanta. And he makes life pretty difficult for me, and I just want to give to you this scene as a little bit of a tip. I just shot at 13 kilometers and hit this guy, but I think that the Atlanta is now threatening some of my patrol boats, or he's just spamming me, I don't quite remember. And he is now going on an anti-parallel course, and so I have to lead his ship, and also short shooting is applied here to the best of use. But he's constantly playing around with the speed and with the direction that he is going, and despite me hitting him, yeah, I'm not really hitting the salvos as good as I want. By the way, because I have such massive guns and the HE shells are so strong, and this is quote-unquote only an Atlanta, I actually switch to HE shells because it's more likely that I hit somewhere on the superstructure or some of the turrets and knock them out than to actually get an ammo rack detonation with the AP shells. Again, the AP shells have more than enough penetration, but again, there you can see it. He is constantly going bow in, turning out, changing the speed, and so I'm now coming to a standstill. I don't want to push too deep into the center of the map, and it also helps me a little bit with just figuring out what this guy is doing. And again, his big mistake is that he's not turning away and just smoking up by running away. That would, yeah, that would make me choose another target because he's disengaging, and then it takes way too long for me to engage him and to kill him effectively. And so now he's going more or less in a straight line. A lot of his propulsion is knocked out, and now you can see those massive damaged salvos from the HE shells. He's down to 14%. A lot of the turrets are knocked out, and the propulsion is also pretty damaged. He's coming nearly to a standstill, and he went down to 3%. Next salvo is in the air. Now I have beaten him because his propulsion is knocked out. He can't maneuver anymore. He's an easy target, and in good old fashion, I don't even look at the kill. So those are the things that you have to really do in order to throw off the enemy's aim, to make yourself an unattractive target by turning away, smoking up, because only then the smoke just is between you and the enemy shooting you, right? And that is another thing that this Köln is demonstrating quite effectively. His only problem is that he is one of the last remaining enemies that there are, and he is constantly changing with his speed and also his course, and he is also sailing away, but he is also going really slow, and you can see how I am because I'm going from the left to the right. And this is then also that you have to take into account that, as I said in the beginning, the shells are taking with them the actual momentum of the ship, and so he's down to 2%, and he gets shot by the rest of my team as well as me. And I try to find here the sweet kill shot on this guy. So I think that he did a lot of things right, because it took me like 5 minutes to actually gun him down. So this must not be underestimated. If he would have smoked up again, if smoke would have been available for him, then I probably would have killed him. Now here again, a little bit of a demonstration. The easiest targets are those broadsiding targets that are going at a steady speed in a steady direction. You can adjust for them pretty easily. I'm actually over leading here again because the majority of the bow section is already completely destroyed on this enemy American destroyer, and so my shells are not landing where they would be the most efficient. I try to adjust for it right now, and I have here this bad sound in the earphones. So here we kill him, and I see another destroyer. And at this heading, at this speed, it's very easy to lead here, in my opinion. Salvo's looking good. First salvo, first kill. across the ship's broadside. I managed to get in some AP shots, and that was a bad salvo. I should have used a single ranging shot. That would have told me exactly that I would have underlet the enemy destroyer. I correct for it. Let's hope for it. Shells are in the air. 7 kills already. Some of them are bots, granted. Oh, that was a very, very good hit. But sadly, I cannot reload before the shells will land. So, before we have a look at the results, let me know in the comment section if this was really helpful, because I think that those easy principles should be understood, and you have to train it a lot. Again, train it in a custom battle with a friend. Again, try to use the test drive, the test cell for me, and there you can see mission marker, terror of the sea, and survivor. That is the Admiral Hipper. And so we got here 50,000 civilians, of which over a third were, or nearly a third, were down to all the awards. So the economy is not all the best. On the other hand, that's it for me today. So thanks for watching, thanks for listening. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please give it a like if it did, subscribe if you want to see more, and we'll see each other on the battlefields, in the skies, and on the waves of War Thunder.